We are live. You are watching the Merged Marketing Podcast. You're listening to the Merged Marketing Podcast. And today we're talking about mastering those B2B PR strategies and more. My guest on today's show is Michelle Garrett. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Michelle is coming to us from Columbus, Ohio, but formerly in the Bay Area.
Right.
What brought
Yes.
you down to Columbus?
I have family, and yeah, the pull was strong. We couldn't get those folks out there, so we ended up back here. So, yeah.
Nice. Awesome. So, before we get into the topic of today's episode, tell us a bit about your history and what got you into the PR space in the first place.
Yeah, well, I always loved writing from the time I was, I wrote for the high school newspaper and all that stuff. And so that was really, I think, when I went to journalism school, and then, within journalism school, what did I want to concentrate on? And that was PR. And so that was kind of the start of it, I guess. And then I think I like PR because it's just allowed me to meet a lot of different types of clients and work with different industries, and it never gets boring. Of course, it's stressful sometimes, but just never a dull moment. So I worked for companies for a long time. I worked for nonprofits, I worked for profits, I worked for an agency, and then I went out on my own, and I've been on my own for quite a while now.
So tell us about the specifics of the work that you're doing now with regards to PR.
Specifically, I really am leaning into the content side of things because I feel like there's so much we can do there. We can publish on a client's website, and then we can also leverage what we publish there and try to get earned media coverage for the client through their content pieces. So I'm talking about thought leadership, I'm talking about case studies, success stories and things like that. And I think that combination is really powerful. And I think in the past, when I worked with clients, they might have an announcement maybe once or twice a year. And then it's like, okay, well, now what do we do, PR wise? So this just gives us a lot more options, and we can always be creating content and then figuring out, okay, beyond publishing it on the client site, they're going to share it on social media. What else can we do with it? Because it really helps them repurpose and just get more bang for their buck, because each piece of content in B2B, there's a stat that's like it's around $2,800. It's probably more than that now. I was trying to find a fresher stat the other day, but yeah, so we're talking $3,000, let's say, for a case study or a piece of content. By the time you get everything factored in, not just the writing, but graphics and anything you're doing to boost, or all of those kinds of costs.
Now, the role of traditional PR has obviously evolved quite a bit. How do you see that continuing to evolve, and how can a business still stay relevant with their PR?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities for companies who want to do it consistently. The thing that doesn't work so well is to do a one-off. Okay, say you do have a product launch once a year and you do PR, and you might get a couple of pieces of coverage, and then you say, okay, well, we're not going to do anything else with PR till we have another product to announce. So that could be a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I think it's really important to be consistent and think of things you can do. Just again, I'd hate to say consistently, but that's really what I'm thinking, is that the one-offs and the once a year type campaigns don't really work as well as kind of a sustained effort, and also leaning into your industry. So for B2B, a lot of times executives think they want to be in the Wall Street Journal, and that's fine, except your customers are probably reading trade journals and publications in your industry. So that's really where I like to focus with clients as well. And that's why I think B2B is such a great area of PR to work in, because there are always trade journals, always publications that need content, and they are often happy, especially if you make it easy for them to publish their your stories and your case studies and things like that by providing great visuals, maybe offering a customer as a reference, something like that. So you can really package it all up and make it very easy for them to just plug it in, because they're short staffed and they need content.
Sounds like there's like a huge emphasis to try to get that PR content on as many channels as possible to open up that wide range of audiences and people that are seeing that content, right?
I think so, because as long as you're creating it and spending money and effort and resources to do that, then why would you not want to do as much as you can with it? And I think that's what my clients would probably say, is that they appreciate that they're not just, when you put a piece of content on your site, hopefully you're getting traffic and people are seeing it, but we all know some of it doesn't get a lot of love, a lot of attention. So I think, you can get it out there, it draws more attention, because then usually they'll link back either to the piece on your site or at least to your site. So then you're getting more, just more visibility for your company and for probably that story or that content. So
Yeah, we always lean into the simple fact that every user consumes content a different way, and they come into a funnel at a different point. Some people like to read the tech magazine. They like to read, a blog on a certain an industry blog, or they like to opt in through a Facebook ad to consume their information, right? So it's important to be out there on as many channels as possible. Now, and how often when you create a piece are you incorporating video into that PR piece?
well, when I have clients that have budget and they can go to the customer site and shoot video, it's very powerful. And it's really, I think, I'm thinking of an example when a client did that. And of course, we had the video. Then I took the transcript and I wrote up, a success story, case study type of piece. And then we also had still images, and we could even offer the customer, because they were so, you know, excited about the solution that they got from my client. So we packaged all that up and sent it out to trade publications, and were able to get coverage, in a number of them without doing another thing. So it was really about, I think, having the video, having the really high quality images, and then just making it really easy for them to just run it. They don't even have to come back to you and ask a question. I mean, if they want something, of course they will come back. But I think the easier you can make it, because they are very short staffed, they're short on time, and they're always trying to fill up their, digital pages. Sometimes they'll end up in print too. So you get yet another, bang for the buck. There's one publication in particular that we work with that has like a top 5 articles, most read articles of the month. That's another hit for it then when we get it in there usually. So I think, yeah, I mean, I feel like making it easy and having that high quality, the visuals are really important. I can't really stress that enough. So
I think, and I think you hit the nail on the head where it's about getting the bang for the buck, right? Like if you have a great news story or a piece of content that really needs to be churned out into a video, into short form content on social media. Maybe that one blog piece of content can be 5 or 6 pieces of content for LinkedIn, right? I think a lot of people, when they create a piece or create a video for YouTube, they're not really squeezing that sponge to extract as much value as possible out of it. And you're spending so much time creating it. Why not just take it that extra yard?
yep. No, I think that's a great point, because again, if you're already doing it and spending time and resources and money and effort, why not do as much as you can with it? And there are so many ways when you think about, you started listing them there. There's so many ways you can do that. And it's hard to get clients to think like that, because some of my clients have a very small marketing team, and then they do work with outside consultants and contractors like me. But they're still kind of stretched thin, and I think they know it's a good thing to do, but like, oh, we don't really have a person to focus on that. So yeah.
What are some unique hurdles that you've seen in this, specifically in the B2B space? Because it's a different beast than the B2C space for PR, I imagine.
It is. I think just, I alluded to this earlier, but kind of keeping things going, like you could go quiet for, months in between having something newsworthy to announce. So I think then it's about, what are they bringing to the table? So it's really hard to work with startup clients who don't really have an established, presence. I find that a lot of times B2B companies that have been around a lot longer, like I've got some clients that have been in business for 50 years in the manufacturing space, for example. It sounds boring, but they have so many cool stories. And then also their leadership team is, they are thought leaders in the industry, because they know everybody. They've been around forever. They can see, they can forecast, what's coming up, and that can be a piece. Sometimes ghostwriting, you interview them and you write it for them, and then you publish it on their blog, and then you pitch it out to publications. So that's just they love that because, their thoughts are getting out there. And I think just coming up with ideas like that and really having like a calendar and a story bank and planning. Every month I meet with a client and we say, okay, well, we know this is coming up, but then 2 or 3 months even further out, like what do we have that's, we can talk about and start kind of building buzz around, or just kind of factoring in as we go. It's nice to have access to social media when you do PR for clients too, but that doesn't always happen. But I think when social content PR work together, that's much more powerful, and we can all leverage what each other's doing and help each other. So
100%. I mean, putting out a certain piece of content on a publication is going to get you exposure to a certain audience, but the amount of targeting that social media can help you with these days to get in front of the exact audience that needs to consume your content, that audience that looks like your ideal customers, can all be done on social media now. That's why I feel like the paid ad side of it can work so well with the PR side of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Now, in terms of attribution for PR, because I'm sure you get this question a lot, is to figure out how well a certain piece of PR content worked or did. How do you
Right.
get around that?
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to measure. And my friends in the measurement space would say, PR ladders up to, your greater marketing campaigns and efforts. So you have to remember that PR is part of that and factor it in. But I mean, if you want to measure the value, say you got an article in, I don't know, I'm not going to say the Wall Street Journal because that's just the cliche example, but like maybe you got an article in Industry Week. Okay. So then you look at that and you see how many, if it drove traffic back to your site, if they included a link and did any traffic come from that. That's one easy way you can do it. There are also services that you can pay for that would help you measure each piece of content. Coverage Book is one that comes to mind. And so often clients want that. And I do have clients that don't seem to care as much about tracking that. And that's interesting too. So I think most clients now are going to want to see, want to understand what the value is. But I think some of the value is almost intangible in a way. And I know that sounds, whatever, but like when your CEO at your client, their peers have seen their thought leadership piece and they say something like, hey, Joe, I saw your piece and, whatever public, yeah, there's some like ego value to that. So, I mean, I don't always play into that, but it is something that happens. So.
What do you find are like for a small business who might not have the budget to hire a PR firm to do
Mhm.
some of this stuff for them? Are there some like low-hanging fruit opportunities for small businesses that you would recommend, ways they can kind of leverage PR?
Sure. I mean, they can do their own PR. I mean, you could spend, say a few hours a week or month and have something that you're focused on pursuing. Again, I think the industry trades are a really good place to focus, especially for B2Bs. Even if you're in like your local chamber of commerce, they have, they send out a publication to their members. So you can always, like, if you have news, you can send it over to them. Maybe if you're a member and they'll maybe put it, out to their membership. That's another, just really low hanging fruit. Local publications, business journals. A lot of times they will want you to talk numbers, and a lot of companies don't want to do that, especially if they're privately held. But those are opportunities too. I know the number of local newspapers in general is kind of dwindling. So I would have probably said that, but I don't know. And then some companies even go after TV appearances. There are morning shows that come out to your location and do a segment or something like that, for example. And they take ideas, they take pitches. So you can do that yourself.
So how do you suppose a small business could even know where to start? How do they do the reach out? What's the best way to reach out? Like you said, these news stations or TV stations might be inundated with these requests. Are there some hacks around getting seen?
I mean, I think the best way to go about it is to do your research. Of course, again, it's a time, consuming effort to research a publication or a journalist that you want to pursue, and then target your pitch directly to that person. So it doesn't have to be super time consuming. You could just, say, well, we want to be in the, the local, paper or whatever. So we're going to look up the business editor and we're going to see what kind of stories they write. And then we're going to try to put together a pitch that kind of hits those notes. So maybe it's around, something like here in Columbus, we've got a lot of tech coming in, around Intel coming in. So, we might develop a pitch around that and send it to the business editor and say, my client is a resource on, local, I don't know, housing to house all these people that are going to work at Intel or something. Just kind of getting creative almost with the angle a little bit, because they're probably hearing from a lot of people about, those types of things. And so to your point, I think getting creative and putting a little bit of thought into it and not giving up. I hear sometimes people will talk to me and they say, well, we tried PR, we sent out an email and nobody got back to us. So PR does not work. And I'm like, well, first of all, if they've never heard of you, like that's going to factor into it. And so you might have to
Mhm.
do it more than once. And you also might, I mean, this would be on the local scale, but like here in Columbus, we have opportunities to meet face-to-face reporters. Sometimes like the Business Journal has these breakfasts and you can go and the
Mm.
reporters are walking around and you can just introduce yourself. Don't pitch them a story, but just say, hey, I'm Joe Schmo from ABC company. And, I do this and that. And then, maybe send them a LinkedIn connection request and then go from there, kind of like warm up to actually pitch them a story. And all of these things, yes, they take time. I always say if you're in a hurry, PR may not be the right way to go. Buy an ad, maybe. But it can pay off. And if you, again, if you do it over the longer term, I think it really can, there's a lot of benefits to that.
Yeah, 100%. And that just all comes back to networking, right? To get
Mhm,
those
mhm.
opportunities, right? I
Yeah.
think that's something that goes undervalued quite a bit, is the ability to spend a bit of time on a weekly basis to network with some of those groups, whether it's virtually or in person, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Definitely. So, how does Michelle Garrett market Michelle Garrett?
Well, this is funny because yesterday, I never do this. I went into Moz and I was checking to see if I ranked for anything. And I ranked number one for what is a contributed article. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got
Nice.
all nerdy and excited.
So, SEO is one of the pillars that you're using to market yourself.
Yeah, well, and I kind of do it without intentionally doing it. I'm not somebody
Mm.
again who's like trying to pack in keywords like when I do writing, because I do blog on my website and I also contribute a lot of articles, and I've done that for years now. And so now it's like, oh wow, it actually works. Like
Well, I would be a huge proponent of it, being as part of our agency as an SEO firm. So
yeah.
we see it in the results 100%. But to your point, you don't have to force it. If anything, Google's so smart now that if you try to force it, it's probably not going to help you. you
Y
know?
yeah, no, I was and I ranked, highly on a couple of terms like PR consulting and things like that. I was like, "Wow, and this is
Mm.
just so exciting." So, that's not all I do. I mean, of course, I'm on social media. I do blog. I have a newsletter. I do contribute articles, and a lot of times people just ask me for comments, or they have me, as a guest on a podcast or something like that. And I always try to make time and say yes to those opportunities. And I've kind of made that, part of that is my marketing really, because I don't pay for ads in general. And I'm a one person business, so I'm not trying to have work with 100 clients at a time or anything like that. So
Mm.
that works pretty well.
So, in terms of, let's talk a bit about the future of PR. With the emergence of AI and ChatGPT, have you been incorporating that into your business right now?
Yikes. No.
Go
No,
for it.
the most read blog post on my site is one I wrote about AI back in around March, I guess, and I mean, it went a little crazy because I just went into all the reasons you have to be careful, because there's legal
Mm.
reasons, there's originality reasons, I mean, I just feel like it kills a lot of the creativity that you actually need to stand out. And so I'm not saying you should never use it. Of course, it is in tools that I use. So like Grammarly, for example, which I use to
Mm.
edit my work because I do
Mhm.
work alone, and it follows me on social media so I don't make some horrible, error and when I'm typing really fast or something on email. And then Gmail has it, so I mean, I'm using it, but I don't use it to do my writing. So I feel pretty strongly about that because I feel like the writing process is how you work things out and organize your thoughts and kind of get to the conclusion that you need to get to. And I also really, when I work with clients and they put together responses for journalists usually can tell if you've used AI to do that, and they're starting to complain like publicly about it on Twitter, and
Mm.
I've seen it, all over the place. So I really try to make sure that clients are not doing that too. Usually I'm crafting the responses or working with them to do it. And so I have a little bit of, insight into how that's going or what process is used. So
Yeah, I think a lot, specifically ChatGPT can be good, but it does require a bit of finessing and a little bit of personalization involved in it as well to make it your own piece, right? And but the prompts are getting really good now, and it is creating unique content. But adding your personal touch on it is definitely recommended because it's very easy. It's very easy to just churn up a piece of blog content from ChatGPT without reading it, but you got to wonder where the source of that content's coming from.
yeah, I mean, I would say call your lawyer if you're I mean,
Yeah.
make sure you have them on speed dial because, I mean, we just don't know. Like we haven't seen, the fruit of a lot of those lawsuits that are starting to surface. But
Mm.
I mean, corporations and news organizations and things are putting together, policies and things in place. But I just feel like it just got out of the gate so fast that, nobody had time to really plan or put any guardrails up. So
Definitely. Michelle, what's the best way our audience can get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Well, of course, I have my website, which is just my name, michellegarrett.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and I am on Twitter, which I have loved over the years, but I mean, I don't know what to say about that. So I'm at PR is us on Twitter. I'm also on Threads at PR Writer Gal. And yeah, I mean, those are some of the best ways.
Formerly known as Twitter, now known as X.
Never. Oh,
Says it on the building.
oh, oh.
Hilarious. Michelle, we end every episode with the same question. That question is this: if you could choose
Mhm.
one person, dead or alive, to represent your brand, who would it be and why?
Well, luckily, I did do my homework on this.
Wow. Nobody does their homework on that one.
Oh, I'm glad I did because I would have been sitting here for an hour trying to think. But the person I came up with is Greta Gerwig.
Okay.
And the reason I came up with that is because she is a brilliant writer. She co-wrote the script for Barbie. She directed the film, and she was
Nice.
able to, get her ideas, which some are a little, controversial perhaps for a studio head. She was able to sell her ideas and get them to allow her to make that movie, which I mean, my daughter and I are a fan of the movie. So
Very good. That is awesome and topical and relevant all at the same time. Very cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Michelle, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you.